Hello, Slicey Dicers. This is Brian with another Battle to the Death for you. Today we have one that I cannot believe I've not done before. This is the Kershaw Bareknuckle versus the Cold Steel Code 4. Two knives that I really like for EDC. Two of my, getting up there in the all-time favorites. The Code 4 has been an all-time favorite for a while. The Bareknuckle's creeping up there. We'll talk more about that when we get into some of the categories here. But really great knives. Very similar in price. $79.95 for the Code 4 with S35 VN steel and aluminum handles. $72.95 for the Kershaw with aluminum handles and 14C28N. Both steels that I really like for everyday carry. Both fairly similar in size, as you can see. The Code 4 is a little bit bigger, but it's not dramatically so. USA made for the Kershaw, Taiwan for the Code 4, but it's still a US company. So you have that going for it. Both just great EDC knives, aluminum handles, like I said. Like, it's just, I don't know why I haven't done this before. So my apologies. But how do these things work? We have 7 scoreable categories. We have design and aesthetics, quality, blade, ergonomics, carry, deployment, and value. And then you get 1 point for each category you win. And at the end, we add them up and we pick a winner. I will say, spoiler alert, no ties this time. Normally, in at least one category, there's like one tie. But in these, I didn't have a tie, which I was really surprised because I really liked both of these knives a whole lot. And I thought there was going to be one that I just couldn't decide and I'd make a tie. But no, I didn't. So we're going to have a clear winner here at the end of this. Let's get going. Let's do some specs and size comparisons. Not size comparisons. We don't do that for these. We size comparing these two. I don't bring out other stuff for that. It would make the video too long. So let's do some specs, and then we'll move on from there. I was getting in a auto-tune mode or something there, I guess. We have an overall length on the Code 4 of 8.5 inches, blade length of 3.5 inches, blade thickness of 0.13 inches, handle thickness of 0.35 inches, and a weight of 4.15 ounces. Now, to talk about the Code 4 just a second before we move on, like I said, it's one of my all-time favorite EDCs. I really like it. It's very slim. It's just great to use. I think it's probably the best thing that Cold Steel makes. The 8010 is really great too, but the 8010 is very expensive. For 80 bucks with S35 VN, and it's a really good value, really good knife. It does come in a Tanto, comes in a couple different colorways, but just the Code 4 is just a fantastic knife. If you want your gateway into Cold Steel, this is at the same time the least Cold Steel and the most Cold Steel of any Cold Steel knives. So check it out. Next up, we will do the Bareknuckle. Change my page of my notes here. Page 2. We have an overall length of 8.2 inches, a little bit shorter. Blade length, 3.5 inches. Blade thickness, a little bit thinner at 0.12 inches. Handle thickness, a little bit thicker at 0.45. And a weight, a little bit lighter at 3.55 ounces. And the Bareknuckle, if you're not familiar with it, USA made Kershaw, not speed safe, which is pretty unusual for USA made Kershaws. Pretty happy about that. This is model number 7777 because it's based on the 0777, the ZT model, because Kershaw is owned by KAI, which also owns ZT. Subframe lock design, kind of a unique design there. Again, 14C28N steel, aluminum handles. I've really come to really like this knife. It was, when I ordered it, I honestly ordered it just for you guys to see it. Still have it. I've had this for quite a long time. I really do like the Bareknuckle. I think it's a great knife. It does come also in a couple colorways. It comes in this gray and the satin. It comes in a black wash and a green. And then if you go to Smoky Mountain Knife Works right now, smkw.com, there is a 20CV special edition for 100 bucks. I really want one. I'm sure they're probably gone probably by the time you're watching this, and I'm going to be upset about that because I just don't have the cash to buy one right now. I really wish I did because I do really like this knife. I'd love to have one in 20CV. But 14C20N, one of my favorite budget steels, so I'm not super upset about it, but I would really like to have the black with the satin and the 20 CV. That would be pretty cool. Now, let us get into our scoreable categories here. we are going to start out with design and aesthetics. I always say this because people get mad at me in the comments. This is the most subjective of any of them. So if you disagree with me, you're fine to disagree with me on this category. It's fine. It's the way I look. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder and all that bull crap. So I'm going to give it to the Bareknuckle. I just think the Bareknuckle is a much more visually interesting design than the Code 4. I have nothing against the look of the Code 4. Neither of these are objectable to me in any way. But I don't know, the bigger pivot, this nice milling and stuff. I don't know. I just think it looks a bit prettier. I don't know how else to say that. That's just a subjective thing. So that's 1 point to the Bareknuckle. I have to give design and aesthetic. There are a couple of colorways of the Code 4. You can get a Tanto and stuff on the blade. But yeah, I don't know. It comes in this or like a gray, and then there's, I don't know. It just doesn't appeal to me as much. I like the look of the Bareknuckle a little bit better. Again, most subjective category, but there you have it. Quality. These two examples that I own, I would call a tie, but I've heard a lot more complaints about quality issues with the Bareknuckle than I have with the Code 4. So, anecdotally, I don't have like hard data or anything, you know, but anecdotally, I gotta give it to the Code 4 just because I've heard less complaints about them. This thing is, both of these are rock solid and great, but I have heard about some complaints with lock rock and grittiness and stuff with the Bareknuckle. I think that's long since gone. I think that was just the first batch of them, which this is one of the first batches. I guess I just got lucky. Mine's been great. But due to that fact, I have to give the point to the Cold Steel for quality. Blade. This one was pretty tough because I do really, really like 14C28N in this price category, but S35VN is almost unheard of in this price category. For $80 for S35VN steel, man, that ain't bad. And you get a nice hollow grind, and it's they're pretty similar behind the edge. You get about 23 thousandths behind the edge on the Code 4, about 25 on the Kershaw, but it's just got this kind of sabery grind. I've just found the Code 4 to be a much better slicer. And Cold Steel, this is what pushed me over the edge. Cold Steel, whoever sharpens your blades, you don't pay them enough. Every Cold Steel I've gotten, from $30 up to the $230 knives, are fantastic. They're so sharp out of the box, it's almost kind of scary. I've cut myself on Cold Steels more than any other knives, and it's not because of any design flaw. It's just because they are so damn sharp. Right out of the box, that's what pushes it over. Got to give the blade that category win to the Code 4. Now, ergonomics. This one was tougher. I have no issues with either of them, to be honest with you. And this is going to be kind of dependent on your hands. I think if you have shorter fingers, I have really long fingers, large size gloves, but very skinny fingers, but they're very long. On the Bareknuckle, I am like fully wrapped around, you know, where my fingers are pushing into my palm. That's always something that annoys me a little bit. But there are no hot spots or anything like that. There's nothing uncomfortable about it. It's just that it feels a bit thin. Where the Code 4 really does seem to fill my hands a little bit better. There's no jimping really other than this little kind of ornamental jimping on the top. But it does just seem to fill my hands just that little bit better. I think if you have smaller hands, you might like the Bareknuckle more. So you can feel free to flipsies that one and give that point to the Bareknuckle if you have shorter fingers. But for my really long fingers, it's the same reason I like a Spyderco Manix 2 more than a PM2. Just I have really long fingers, and it just this just works really, really well. Both of them, no hot spots, anything, nothing like that. But I got to give it to the Code 4. I just really enjoy having this in my hand for long periods of time. And it's why it's one of my favorite kind of, you know, beater dives to really abuse and use. Carry. Yeah, this one I thought I would give to the Code 4, but I'm not. It does have the Cold Steel. It comes with 2 pocket clips, so if you want to switch it for left-hand carry, which this is a completely ambidextrous knife, which that is great, but you have 2 different clips. I don't care about that much, but I'm going to give it to the Bareknuckle because it's just slimmer in the pocket. And it does have a flipper tab, which normally I would give the advantage to the one that doesn't have a flipper tab. But in this one, I'm not. I really like this deep carry clip. Yes, if you are wearing very thick, heavy jeans, this recessed pocket clip may not work for you. So keep that in mind. But in the pocket, this is just easier to get my hand past. It carries deeper. I do just enjoy having this in my pocket a bit more than the Cold Steel. This is pretty damn good for a Cold Steel, but still, it's just, yeah, it's a bit tall. Yeah, I got to give it. I almost changed my mind for a second there, but no, I got to give it to the Kershaw. It's just, I think this carries just a little bit better, but with the caveat of if you have very thick pants. Deployment. This one is not really a contest unless you're left-handed. If you are left-handed, this is a totally ambidextrous knife because it's just a simple back lock. So if you're a lefty, then give the point to the Cold Steel all day long because it's got, you know, these thumb studs. You can reverse the thumb stud so that you can do either one. But there's nothing wrong with the way that the Code 4 deploys. It works great for a back lock. It's pretty good. They thought enough to make sure that it doesn't axe your finger when it drops down. Cold Steel doesn't always do that. Sometimes some of theirs will axe your finger if you're not paying attention. But it's just a simple back lock. There's nothing exciting about it. On the Bareknuckle, I've owned several ZTs. I own a ZT 0562 tie. It's a fantastic knife. It's $280. This is $73. And I cannot honestly say that the action is better on my ZT than it is on this. I can't. This is well broken in. I've put a lot of miles on this thing. I'm not saying they're going to be like this out of the box. But once you put some miles on them, maybe did a service on them, the action for $72.95 is amazing. And I know you can actually find these cheaper on Amazon and stuff, but I don't screw with Amazon too much. But yeah, it's fantastic. Now I will say a lot of people you'll see on forums and stuff, maybe in some comments on my reviews that, oh, it gets deathlock if you push on the block bar and you can't get it open. Well, don't do that. I don't know what else to say about that. Don't do that. It's not hard to not do that. I've never really had an issue with that. And even now, like I'm putting my finger on the bar, I'm putting some pressure on it. I can still pop it out. It's fine. Yeah, it's a bit stiffer, but it's not deathlock like people make a big deal about. I think that is a totally overblown problem. I don't think it's a problem at all. Just don't do that. Just put your hand down here. It's not hard. Yeah, easy win on deployment for the Kershaw. I just think the deployment on the Bareknuckle is just, it's pretty damn fantastic. I would say it's the best in this price category, but Civivis exist. But it's still better than a Civivi, but it's a little bit more than a Civivi. I don't know. I don't mean to bring another brand into this and make it a whole thing, but no, the deployment on this is just outstanding. And because you're running on, you know, washers versus bearings, all that kind of stuff. Value. Pretty easy win to the Code 4. Even though this is USA made, running on bearings, still a good steel, still good handle material, all that stuff. Yeah, it's like the Code 4 is S35VN, which is a really awesome steel. I mean, you see knives in the $300 and some range, more than that still have S35VN. You're getting such a value with the steel that got to give it to the Code 4. And that's what's going to make the Code 4 win this battle to the death is S35VN. I mean, that's really kind of what did it. It was even better when it was XHP, but they don't do that anymore. I wish it was still XHP. I missed that steel, but you can't get it anymore in almost anything. But yeah, I love that this is S35VN. It won in a lot of other categories. So 4-3. I'm going to call it a narrow win for the Code 4, but a clear win for the Code 4. If I had to pick to get rid of one of these two, yeah, I would definitely keep the Code 4. And again, you can get a Tanto option if you want to do that, whatever. But, yep. Going to give the win to the Code 4, even though the Bareknuckle put up a very, very good fight, and I still really like it. If this was if the 20CV or an M390 version becomes like production and it's only $99 and so it's only $20 more than this, then maybe I would give it to the Kershaw. But as they stand right now, with the 20CV just being a dealer exclusive, I have to give the win to the Code 4. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I've been Brian. Have a good one.